Hello students and welcome to our weekly market analysis. Now usually we'll send this information through email to our registered students, but we've decided to open this weekly market analysis for the entire community of traders out there. Today we're going to analyze two assets. The first one will be the dollar index and the second one will be the euro in front of the US dollar. Most of our students already know how to use this information to their advantage. If you have some questions regarding this material, you're more than welcome to open our website and subscribe. You'll receive all the information through one-on-one session with one of our mentors. So on our website, we're going to go to Sidekicks. I'm going to open my trading station. And over here, we're going to start with the dollar index. Just first of all, let's maximize the screen and choosing the dollar index. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to analyze the dollar index for the longer period. With our analysis, we're dividing the different information according to the needs of our traders. We've got a variety of traders from long-term investments until short-term, meaning in a day or even scalpers. And in this case, I'd like to start with analyzing the dollar index on long time frame, and then we'll move forward to a lower and lower time frame, describing the potential for each and every approach. So first of all, we're going to go to a weekly chart on the dollar index. Regarding the dollar index right now, what we can see in terms of structure is that we've received a very nice uptrend of 5 waves, meaning that we've completed an entire structure of an uptrend movement. We don't have a specific indicator at the bottom because we teach how to trade and analyze charts according to our traders' ability in terms of time, in terms of investment, and so on and so forth. So in this case, I'm going to use a plain simple chart with no indicators on the chart so that you'll get the general explanation of this potential. But I would definitely like to mention that our traders use specific indicators for their methods, depending on what kind of strategy they'll decide to invest in. So in this case, again, we've got a very nice uptrend movement, a smaller downtrend movement that is a corrective pattern. We can see that we've received a completion of a corrective pattern from the Fibonacci retracement, dropping down toward the between 50 and 61.8%. We've received a continuance of an uptrend. That is the third wave that we've got over here. And our assessment is to see a continuance of a downtrend regarding the dollar index. My assessment is that we will see a continuance of a downtrend at least toward this target over here. So that is my first target for this potential. I see a potential of a continuance of a downtrend regarding the dollar index. Again, using the correlation course, our students know how to use this information and apply that on other trades. And that is exactly what we're teaching here in the Financial Academy. We're teaching how to use this information and moving that forward to other trades, using the entire market for your advantage, because we're teaching where money is coming from and where it's heading. And by trading on this concept, you'll be able to make very nice profits with very low risk potential. So in this case, again, our assessment is to see a continuance of a downtrend toward the 11,235 level, and with an additional information we'll be able to be more accurate with our analysis. Now that is a very logical downtrend movement that we expect to see. In addition to that, I'd like to say that today we've received a very important announcement, and I'm going to cover this announcement as well, showing you what information we've received based on the fundamental analysis and how we can make an assessment regarding this entire structure. But for now, this is the directional movement that we're expecting to receive, a continuance of a downtrend. Once we will lower the time frame, we might see a small potential for an uptrend on this structure specifically, but for the long term, our assessment is to see a continuance of a weaker dollar in the market when you understand the concept of inflation. Our assessment for the long third wave uptrend movement is that eventually we will see a corrective pattern reaching the logical pullback toward the 50 level of this entire uptrend movement. So it's a very logical direction for this corrective pattern, and our assessment is to see that until mid 2018. So we're approaching approximately 7 months of a downtrend movement on the dollar index, receiving a weaker dollar in the market. Let's move to a lower time frame. On a daily chart, we can see the inner structure of this potential specifically. Let's measure this uptrend movement and see what is the potential right now regarding this specific structure. So based on that, we can see that we have some ability to climb a bit higher than the current rate. I remind you, we went from a weekly chart to a daily chart. So on a weekly chart, we can see a long-term downtrend movement potential. Right now on the daily chart, meaning for the next several days, our assessment is to see a bit higher dollar in the market. So traders that trade for long-term investors, I do advise that you wait a bit until the market will reach toward the 12,192, and from that point and forward I will look for a continuance of a downtrend based on a weekly chart. Let's move forward to a lower time frame, an hourly chart that is already getting into an inner structure of an intraday traders. Right now we can see that we've received a completion of the first wave, a second wave dropping down, and a continuance of an uptrend. Our assessment is to see a bit more uptrend on this directional movement. Now, this pullback that you can see over here, this downtrend movement that caused the dollar to lose some strength in the market, it occurred because of an announcement regarding the Ppi, an index that we will talk about later on during this video. But just for the idea, right now we've got an uptrend potential, a continuance of an uptrend, and this downtrend movement is the beginning, is the completion of a corrective pattern for this uptrend structure. So we've got an entry point, an uptrend structure, we've got a pullback, a corrective pattern, and our assessment is to see a continuance of an uptrend from this point and forward for the next several hours, several days. That is the logical assessment regarding this specific structure, and we will see the potential based on the fundamental analysis in a second. So we've completed the entire idea of the dollar index. On the weekly movement, our assessment is to see the dollar weakening during the next 6 or 7 months, and on a daily chart we still see a potential of an uptrend that is a closer range for the current market rate. Okay, so on an intraday and on a daily chart, I advise our traders to look for an uptrend potential, entry points based on your indicators, and later on, the larger time frames, I advise you to wait until the market will complete its uptrend structure, and then we will have a very, very accurate, low risk, high profit potential entry point for a continuance of a long-term downtrend regarding the dollar index. Now, the dollar index has a lot to do not only with the dollar itself, but how liquid the market is. We all know that is a basic fact that as long as we've got liquidity in the market, we've got profit potential. Trading markets with no liquidity is very, very frustrating. So in this case, understanding that we're looking for an uptrend potential on the dollar index, we understand that we should receive some flow regarding a stronger dollar in the market. This flow will cause other assets in the currency world, and beyond that, in indices, stocks, commodities, obviously we know the connection between the dollar and gold and silver and oil as well. So our assessment is to see more liquidity getting into the market, divest to this specific structure that we've received since the end of October. So generally we can see that the market is fluctuating, bouncing a bit higher, a bit lower in a very, very narrowed structure. But beyond this structure, our assessment is to receive more and more liquidity to the global market, and then all the possibilities that we're analyzing together will have more liquidity and will move toward our direction. So in this case, again, on a low time frame, the potential is to see a stronger dollar in the market. Let's move forward and see this potential on the euro in front of the US dollar. So again, I'm going to do the same idea. Weekly chart, analyzing the long-term potential. Again, we can see that we've received a very nice downtrend movement. Basically, we're fluctuating in a specific channel. We can mark this channel. Placing this channel, we basically mark the territory of our bounce, and our assessment is to see a continuance of an uptrend toward this higher level. But in this specific structure, because we saw on the dollar index that on the short period, the daily and hourly chart are indicating a potential of an uptrend on the strength of the dollar, our assessment on the euro versus the US dollar is to see a bit of a downtrend toward the 1.15 level, and that will be a logical completion of this downtrend structure. And from that point and forward, our assessment is to see a continuance of an uptrend. Now that is based on a weekly very large scale. Let's move forward for a lower time frame and see this potential based on a lower time frame structure. Zooming into this structure specifically, I can again mark a specific channel for this downtrend movement. But let's change the definition of this channel so that we will see a continuance of the lines. Let's extend the right side of this channel to see an additional information, and we can do that to the right side as well. So our assessment is to see a continuance of a bounce between these levels, and from that point forward to see a bit of a downtrend that will complete the structure based on the dollar index. Now again, on a daily chart, we see a potential for a continuance of a downtrend movement. On the contrary, crossing beyond this specific higher channel line, we do see a potential for this structure to break and a continuance of an uptrend. Remember, and we are saying that a lot with our education series, we've got probability for every structure. The probability is on our side when we're attending a potential of a downtrend to complete this specific structure. But anything can happen in the market. So in this case, we're lowering the exposure, but still profiting from this specific downtrend potential. So a continuance of a downtrend will complete this specific structure. If you would like to move forward and analyze this potential, the downtrend potential on a lower time frame, to receive a more accurate downtrend potential, we can measure the last structure that we've received on the uptrend movement. And a bounce toward the between 38.2 and 50 level, meaning between 1.15 and approximately 1.135. That is a logical pullback for this specific structure before we will move forward for a higher rate. And it comes along with a structure that we see on the dollar index. Obviously, it's very logical because the euro versus the US dollar has a very large influence on the dollar index structure. So in this case, we see a coexisting potential between the euro versus the US dollar and the dollar index. For the short period, our assessment is to see a downtrend movement on the euro versus the US dollar. And for the long term, we can catch a very long-term investment on an uptrend movement climbing up on the euro versus the US dollar, while the dollar index is expected to continue its main downtrend movement, just joining the general trend that we can see based on the charts. Let's move forward to a 1-hour chart and see if we've got a very good entry point for this current structure. So what we can see over here is again the bounce between the channels. Very nicely, we can see that indeed the channels are supporting on the psychological side. They support traders whether they should join an uptrend movement or a downtrend movement. We can see that it's influencing the entire market. And right now, because of the announcement that I've explained at the beginning of this session, indeed we can see the uptrend movement that we've received over here toward this channel. Let's go to the calendar and see what we can expect to receive for the next several days. So on one hand, we've received the Ppi Index. It has a lot to do with the idea of deflation because it is the value of merchandise. If we'll move forward and look a bit regarding this indication, that is the producer price index. And if we can see that we've received a 0.4%, meaning higher than the expectation, then it means that merchandise being offered to the public has a higher value right now, meaning that the inflation should climb up with it and the value of the currency has a lower impact. And this is why we can see that the value of the dollar is losing strength in the market. On the dollar index side, meaning that generally in the market, we know that the dollar is losing strength at the moment, and the euro versus the US dollar. Over there, we can see that it's actually impacting the dollar's strength in front of a specific currency. Now, alongside with this information, we're teaching our traders how to use the dollar's strength or weakness and move that forward to other assets as well. I've explained that, but what we're using is the idea of correlation. Correlation has a specific use in the market what we did, we've manipulated the idea of correlation and we formed a complete course that describes how to use correlation to your advantage based on this idea. We've got a lot of traders out there that constantly analyze strength and weakness on different assets, and correlation is the most important instrument that you can place in your trading tools being a trader. Later on, what we can see that on Wednesday we've got a very important and very interesting day. On the pound side, we've got the average earning index. On the dollar side, we've got a lot of indications regarding the CPI, that is the consumer price index, and we've got other core retail sales and retail sales indication. So we've got a lot of information coming from the inner potential of the US market. Now, one of our tools is to divide internal information and external information because they have a different influence on stocks and currencies. The correlation, the connection between stocks and local currency is very, very unique, because sometimes we see that the dollar, in this case, is gaining strength while stocks are losing strength, and on other cases we see that the dollar is gaining strength while stocks are gaining strength as well. It all comes down to whether the announcement is internal or external to the local market. And in this case, we know what will be the effect on the local market and on the currency as well. During that specific day on Wednesday, we've got another announcement regarding the crude oil inventories. Now, we've got a lot of stories regarding the oil at the moment coming from OPEC that will affect the price of the oil, but also the strength or weakness of the dollar. And in addition to that, the crude oil inventories will definitely impact the oil prices. And on Thursday, we've got employment change and unemployment rate on behalf of the Australian market. And later on, we've got the US market on a weekly basis, the unemployment claims announcement that will definitely change the course of the market. So we see that we have a lot of announcements that might affect the dollar and cause it to move toward our prediction or contradict our analysis. And that is totally fine. Just that based on the fundamental aspect, we can prepare ourselves for the specific potential that we're analyzing on the charts. For our traders, if you've got any question regarding this analysis, you are more than welcome to refer that question from our website. And for other traders that aren't subscribed to our website, I advise you to subscribe, and we'll get back to you, give you all the information that you need regarding this session, and obviously other tools that can help you a lot with your trading.